You need to see this because these cars weren't just strong, they were monsters hiding in plain sight. Built in secret, sold in tiny numbers, or overshadowed by more famous names, these machines packed brutal horsepower, insane torque, and serious street credentials. Some were factory-built beasts. Others were dealer-tuned sleepers. All of them were stronger than you'd ever expect. Here are 12 of the strongest, most powerful cars you probably didn't know existed. And once you see them, you'll never look at American muscle the same way again. Number 1. The 1966 Dodge Coronet W023 426 Hemi Lightweight was not just a muscle car, it was a factory-born executioner. It wasn't built for car shows, comfort, or even street credibility. It was engineered with one purpose in mind: to annihilate the quarter mile. In an era when the Big Three were pouring resources into ever-faster machines for NHRA superstock and match racing, Dodge raised the stakes to nuclear with the W023. A drag-strip weapon so raw, so stripped of civility, it barely qualified as a car in the traditional sense. This wasn't something you bought. This was something Dodge allowed you to have if you were a serious racer with connections. Let's start with the heart, the 426 Hemi. Known to Mopar fanatics as the elephant engine for its sheer physical bulk and brutal torque, the Hemi was already the terror in the full-size Mopar line. But in the W023 configuration, it became almost mythological. Rated at 425 horsepower and 490 lb-ft of torque, those figures were the official line, designed to satisfy insurance companies and sanctioning bodies. In reality, anyone who had ever lined one up at the lights knew better. Tuners and racers routinely found that these engines in proper tune were laying down upwards of 550 horsepower. And that was bone stock. Throw in a set of headers and open exhaust, and the W023 was deep into 11-second territory, and with slicks and good air, it could flirt with the 10s in 1966. But power alone doesn't make a drag car, and Dodge's engineers knew that. That's why the W023 underwent a total re-engineering to drop weight wherever possible. The front fenders, hood, and bumper were made of lightweight aluminum, saving over 150 pounds right off the nose. The battery was moved to the trunk for better weight distribution. The inner fenders were acid-dipped to remove every last unnecessary ounce of steel. There was no insulation, no radio, no heater. The backseat, gone. The carpet, optional. Even the window regulators were lightweight units. The end result was a full-size Bugatti coupe weighing around 3,200 pounds. Startlingly light for a mid-60s car with a massive V8. The weight savings meant better launches, quicker times, and less stress on the drivetrain. It also meant, frankly, that this was not a comfortable car. The W023 idled like a caged animal, roared at full throttle, and shook like a storm at redline. It didn't care about your ears, your back, or your idea of refinement. It was built to do one thing: run 1320 feet as fast as possible. Only around 55-60 units of the W023 Coronet were ever built. All of them sold through Dodge's race program. These weren't street cars, not really. Most were sold to NHRA super stock racers, local drag heroes, and dealers with inside connections to Chrysler's legendary backdoor performance pipeline. Some were raced under Dodge's official banner. Others became privateer monsters. But nearly all of them were destined to be thrashed, beaten, rebuilt, and raced into the ground. Finding a real one today, with matching numbers and factory documentation, is almost impossible. Most were destroyed, wrecked, or converted into other race cars over the years. Visually, the W023 didn't scream its intent. That was the genius. At a glance, it looked like a plain Coronet coupe. No fancy graphics, no flared fenders, no hood scoops as big as your fist. Just steel wheels with dog dish hubcaps, skinny bias ply tires, and a nose-down attitude. The only real giveaway was the exhaust burble, deep, threatening, and unmistakable. Inside, the cabin was equally austere. Basic dash, stripped door panels, and lightweight bucket seats. It was as if Dodge was daring you to add creature comforts. but it came from the factory with absolutely none. You didn't drive the W023 for fun. You piloted it like a dragster, focused, clenched, and white-knuckled. Every pass down the strip, another step into mechanical madness. The W023 wasn't about sales volume. It wasn't even about brand prestige. It was about sending a message to the competition. Dodge was in it to win, and they were willing to sell weapons of war to do it. While Ford had the Thunderbolt, and GM had Copo Camaros and L88 Corvettes, Chrysler had the W223 Hemi Coronet, a car that respected neither convention nor mercy. One old racer who ran a W223 in regional superstock circuits in the late 60s once said, "It didn't talk, it didn't handle, it didn't care. It just launched like it was shot out of a cannon. The only language it spoke was 1320 feet, wide open." Today, the 1966 Dodge Coronet W023 426 Hemi Lightweight is considered one of the most legendary factory drag cars ever produced. Not just because of its performance or its rarity, but because of what it symbolized. It was the last gasp of factory drag dominance before regulations, safety, and insurance neutered the muscle car scene. It was Detroit's war machine, delivered with a title and a warning. Number 2. The 1990 Chevrolet El Camino SS LS6 454 wasn't just a quirky hybrid of muscle car and utility vehicle. It was one of the most outrageous machines Chevrolet ever unleashed on the public. While most people saw the El Camino as a car truck curiosity, Chevy had other ideas. What if you took the most powerful engine in GM's arsenal and stuffed it under the hood of this unassuming ute? The result was one of the rarest and most fearsome combinations to ever roll out of a GM factory. A vehicle that could haul lumber to the kite site in the morning and run low 13s at the drag strip in the afternoon. All without so much as breaking a sweat. Let's talk power. The LS6 454 was the king of the hill. A solid lifter, high compression, 11.25 1:1, fire-breathing big block that GM conservatively rated at 450 horsepower and 500 lb of torque. But anyone who's ever stood near one at full throttle knows that number was pure fiction. Real-world dyno tests have shown these monsters making upwards of $500 at 525 HP stock. And when uncorked with headers and a good tune, that number climbed even higher. This was the most powerful production engine GM ever put in a street car, and they shoved it into a vehicle that looked like it should be hauling mulch. The LS6 El Camino was equipped with all the high-performance hardware of its Chevrolet SS sibling. Forged steel crankshaft, 4-bolt mains, huge intake and exhaust valves, high-flow rectangular port cylinder heads, aluminum intake manifold, a Holley 780 CFM 4-barrel carb, and a rev-happy aggressive camshaft that gave it a feral lope at idle. Backing it up was either a bulletproof Muncie M22, Rock Crusher 4-speed manual, or a TH400 3-speed automatic, both paired with a 12-bolt rear end and optional 4.10 or 4.11 gears for those who wanted to hear Satan sing. But the beauty of the LS6 El Camino was in the deception. On the outside, it still looked like a utility vehicle, long bed in the back, bench seat into the Coronet, and chrome trim that whispered suburban workhorse more than street demon. Some even came with full wheel covers instead of rally wheels, further hiding their true nature. The SS trim added dual racing stripes, a cowl induction hood, and badging that hinted at what lurked beneath. But unless you read the fine print on the fender, you might not realize this pickup was about to annihilate your GTO. And that's what made it so dangerous. It didn't look the part. Pull up next to one at a stoplight, and you'd assume it was just some guy in his work rig. Then the light turns green, the secondaries open up, and suddenly you're watching taillights shrink into the horizon as a bedliner full of cinder blocks tears a hole through time. Chevrolet never advertised the LS6 El Camino much, and as a result, very few were ordered. Most buyers opted for the 396 or standard 454 versions, not realizing they could option the absolute beast LS6 motor if they checked the right boxes. While total LS Chevelle production for 1970 was over 4,000 units, The number of El Caminos built with the LS6 is estimated at fewer than 500, possibly far fewer, depending on how strictly you define verified documentation. Surviving matching numbers examples today are rare, desirable, and extremely expensive. Inside, the El Camino SS shared its dashboard and interior layout with the Chevelle. You could get bucket seats and a console if you wanted, but many LS6 models were built with the no-nonsense bench seat and column shifter setup. Again, it was all about utility. Except the utility, in this case, was laying waste to the competition. One former owner described it perfectly. It was a muscle car disguised as a pickup, or the other way around. Today, the 1970 Chevrolet El Camino SS LS6 454 occupies a very special place in American automotive history, a reminder of how wild, how audacious, and how gloriously over-the-top Detroit got before the insurance companies and emissions regulations pulled the plug. It was loud, it was fast, it made no sense. And that's exactly why it was perfect. If you ever get the chance to drive one, be warned, it doesn't feel like a truck. It feels like a predator in disguise, and once that cowl hood starts breathing and the rear tires start howling, you'll realize this was never about hauling cargo. This was about hauling everything. Number 3. The 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt wasn't built to make friends. It was built to destroy records, competitors, and in many cases, itself. This was no typical showroom car. This was a tool of war, handcrafted by Ford's engineers in a last-ditch effort to shove every last ounce of brutality into a production shell just barely street legal enough to qualify for NHRA super stock racing. In that brief, furious window before the muscle car explosion hit its peak, Ford delivered what is still considered one of the most outrageous factory hot rods of all time, a vehicle so powerful and uncompromising that it redefined what factory performance could mean. At its core, the Thunderbolt was a heavily modified 1964 Fairlane, but that's like calling a tornado a breezy day. The modifications were extensive, obsessive, and singularly focused on drag strip domination. The centerpiece was the legendary 427 cubic inch high-riser V8, an engine born not on the street but in Ford's NASCAR and drag racing divisions. With massive intake ports, forged internals, a solid lifter cam, dual 780 CFM Holley 4-barrels, and a towering aluminum intake manifold, this motor was a monster barely tamed for civilian use. Officially, Ford claimed the engine made 425 horsepower and 480 Nm of torque. But even period test data, let alone the seat of the pants experience, confirmed this was pure fiction. Real output was closer to 550 horsepower, and its savage torque delivery could annihilate tires, twist drive shafts, and make suspension components beg for mercy. In the right hands, on slicks, with a good launch, a Thunderbolt could run low 11-second quarter miles, even dip into the high 10s, at a time when most family sedans took 16 to 18 seconds to do the same. And all of this came from a vehicle sold through a dealership with a factory warranty. Briefly, to make it that fast, Ford put the Fairlane on a crash diet. Gone were the steel fenders, hood, front bumper, and even the inner headlight assemblies. In their place, fiberglass panels, plexiglass side windows, and a strange rubber-sealed intake system feeding cold air through the faux headlight, spinning straight into the carbs. Inside, anything unnecessary was deleted. No radio, no heater, no rear seat, no insulation. Thin bucket seats were bolted directly to the floor. Even the sun visors were optional. Every pound shave meant a few hundredths of a second gain, and Ford wasn't taking any chances. Only 100 Thunderbolts were built in total, 49 with the Borg-Warner T10 4-speed manual transmission, 51 with Ford's specially modified C6 automatic. Every car was painted Wimbledon white or vintage burgundy. Every car was meant for competition, not commuting. Customers were professional drag racers, not weekend warriors. And Ford made no attempt to hide what this car was. It came with a disclaimer: not intended for regular highway use. Driving a Thunderbolt on the street was like trying to walk a tiger on a leash. The camshaft was so aggressive that it barely idled. The high-riser heads made throttle response violent. The clutch was heavy and the shifter vague. The steering was vague and twitchy. The lightweight body panels often fit poorly. And under the hood, everything ran so hot that street use was basically a death sentence unless you modified it. Owners reported vapor lock, stalling, overheating, and spontaneous electrical gremlins, all part of the package. One mechanic from the era put it best: if it idled too long, it would shake itself apart. That's how serious it was. But none of that mattered at the drag strip. That's where the Thunderbolt made its name. Driven by legends like Gas Ronda, Butch Leal, and Phil Bonner, the car tore through NHRA superstock like a sledgehammer through drywall. It became a symbol of Ford's total commitment to win, and of just how far an automaker could go when it bent the rules to their breaking point. The car's dominance was short-lived, however. NHRA quickly changed the rulebook to limit the kind of extreme factory modifications Ford had used to build the Thunderbolt. The car had proved too successful. It broke not only records, but the spirit of the competition. By 1965, the Thunderbolt was obsolete in sanctioned racing, replaced by purpose-built funny cars and later pro-stock machines. Many Thunderbolts, stripped of their factory glory, were crashed, parted out, or junked. But a few survived, restored to original specs, and today they stand as icons of an era when automakers would do anything, and we mean anything, to win on Sunday. Surviving numbers-matching examples are valued into the high six figures, and a documented Thunderbolt appearing at an auction still causes a stir. It is the blueprint for every factory drag car that came after, from the Copo Camaros and Hemi Darts to the modern Dodge Demon and Mustang Cobra Jet. Number 4. The 1987 Shelby Lancer is one of the most fascinating and misunderstood performance cars of the 1980s. A true hidden gem forged in the shadow of an era dominated by muscle car nostalgia and the burgeoning popularity of Japanese sport compacts. At a glance, it might seem like just another sporty sedan. After all, it was based on the Chrysler K-platform Dodge Lancer, itself a derivative of the aging front-wheel drive architecture shared with several other Chrysler vehicles. But peel back the layers and you find something much more ambitious. A factory-backed, hand-assembled Shelby performance sedan that married turbocharged technology with luxury, style, and surprising handling prowess, long before hot hatch or sports sedan became household terms. Only 800 Shelby Lancers were ever built, split evenly between manual and automatic transmissions, making this car one of the rarest production Shelbys from the post-muscle car era. Each car carried unique Shelby badging and came from Shelby Automobile's California production facility, a small boutique operation where the muscle car legends team painstakingly installed and tuned the turbocharged 2.2L four-cylinder engine and reworked suspension components, hand-building what was essentially a turbocharged sleeper sedan. This engine, rated at a modest factory figure of 175 horsepower and 175 lb of torque, was notorious for conservative factory numbers. Enthusiasts and mechanics alike would attest that, thanks to Shelby's aggressive boost calibration, intercooler upgrades, and fine-tuned fuel delivery, the real-world output was far closer to 200 horsepower, a figure that was more than enough to embarrass many contemporary V8-powered competitors. The car's light curb weight, combined with the manual gearbox option, allowed the Shelby Lancer to sprint from 0 to 60 mph in roughly 6 seconds, a time that rivaled or beat many of the muscle cars that defined the previous decade. What truly set the Shelby Lancer apart was its uncanny ability to blend speed and practicality. Inside the cabin, you were greeted with premium leather upholstery, power windows, an advanced-for-the-time CD player, and a sophisticated sound system. Luxury touches that were unheard of in a typical performance car of that period. Unlike loud, raw muscle cars, the Shelby Lancer was quiet and refined on the street, capable of slipping under the radar with its unassuming appearance. It wasn't about flamboyant styling or shouting for attention. Instead, it was a stealthy predator, capable of sprinting past rivals while dressed like an executive sedan. Handling was another surprise. Thanks to Shelby's revised suspension setup, which included upgraded Monroe shocks, stiffer springs, and larger sway bars, the Lancer offered tighter cornering and more responsive steering than the standard Dodge Lancer or many of its contemporaries. The addition of four-wheel disc brakes with advanced calipers meant the car could stop on a dime, a crucial advantage for a vehicle packing such unexpected punch under the hood. These enhancements made the Lancer a joy to drive, especially on winding roads where most front-wheel drive sedans of the time felt numb or underwhelming. The marketing and timing, however, worked against the Shelby Lancer's success. By 1987, muscle car buyers were largely nostalgic for V8s and rear-wheel drive. The concept of a turbocharged four-cylinder front-drive Shelby, especially one with a sober sedan body, was too niche and ahead of its time. Many consumers either didn't know about the Lancer's Shelby credentials or dismissed it due to its modest exterior. Dealerships often struggled to sell the cars, and production ceased after a single model year. Unlike the iconic Shelby Mustangs and Cobras of previous decades, the Lancer never gained widespread recognition and quickly faded into obscurity. Nevertheless, the Shelby Lancer remains a prized possession among collectors and Shelby enthusiasts today. Its rarity, combined with its unique blend of luxury, technology, and turbocharged performance, makes it a compelling chapter in the Shelby legacy. Those lucky enough to own one describe it as a car that defies expectations. A sophisticated sleeper that doesn't scream for attention, but commands respect through its capabilities. One Shelby Lancer owner summed it up perfectly. It had leather seats, a CD player, and enough boost to slap a Mustang. It was a car that could keep up with the fast kids, but do it with class and comfort. Back in the day, nobody knew what to make of it. Now it's one of the coolest Shelbys out there, just quietly waiting to surprise anyone brave enough to take the wheel. In a world where muscle cars were defined by size, noise, and brute force, the 1987 Shelby Lancer proved that subtlety and technology could still deliver muscle. It's a car that, to this day, is a testament to Carroll Shelby's willingness to experiment, innovate. Number 5. The 1971 Mercury Cyclone spoiler. 4029 Super Cobra Jet is an unsung titan of the muscle car era, often eclipsed in the popular imagination by the flashier Ford Torino Cobra and the celebrated Boss Mustang variants. Yet, in its own right, the Cyclone spoiler stands as one of the most formidable and intriguing big-body muscle cars ever produced by Mercury, embodying a raw, unfiltered expression of American automotive power, wrapped in an unexpectedly sophisticated package. It's a car that wore its strength not with flamboyance, but with a quiet, commanding presence, like a heavyweight boxer in a tailored suit, ready to unleash devastation with a single strike. At the heart of this beast was the legendary 429 cubic-inch Super Cobra jet engine, a power plant born in the heat of Detroit's muscle car wars. While officially rated at 375 horsepower, the real-world output was far more intimidating, with torque figures pushing well beyond 450 kW. This torque wasn't just a number, it was a tangible force that hurled the Cyclone down straightaways with brutal acceleration, capable of launching from 0 to 60 with the kind of urgency that startled even seasoned drivers. The engine was paired with a drag pack option that included a 3.911 rear axle ratio, heavy-duty suspension components, and a ram air induction system that helped optimize airflow and performance. This combination transformed the Cyclone spoiler into a street-legal thunderstorm, delivering power that could overwhelm most contemporaries and turn any drag strip into a showcase of raw muscle. Stylistically, the Cyclone spoiler defied the typical muscle car trend of the early 70s, which often favored gaudy graphics and ostentatious styling. Instead, Mercury opted for a more nuanced approach, giving the spoiler a sleeker, aerodynamic front end designed to comply with NASCAR homologation rules. Its long, aggressive nose featured a lowered grille and a sculpted bumper designed to cut through the air, providing a glimpse of performance promise before the engine even started. The body was larger and heavier than many pony cars of the day, a big coupe with broad shoulders, expansive fenders, and a roofline that tapered gently toward the rear, lending the car a sense of restrained elegance. The subtle addition of dual racing stripes, a rear spoiler, and minimal badging allowed the Cyclone spoiler to communicate muscle without shouting, marking it as a refined predator on wheels. Beneath the polished exterior lay a machine built for the straight line and brutal power delivery rather than finesse around corners. The suspension was firm, optimized for stability during rapid acceleration and high-speed cruising, but it sacrificed nimbleness in tight turns. The brakes, heavy-duty and responsive, were designed to wrestle with the monstrous power, providing crucial stopping ability for such a beastly vehicle. Mercury's engineering ensured that despite its size and weight, the Cyclone spoiler could intimidate with speed and presence, cutting through the muscle car landscape as a heavyweight champion. Production numbers for the 429 Super Cobra Jet version were limited. Only a few hundred were built, and even fewer survive today in original condition. This rarity has turned the Cyclone spoiler into a prized collectible among muscle car aficionados who recognize it as a hidden gem. A car that has aged like a fine whiskey, its understated style and brutal capability becoming more appreciated with time. It wasn't designed for flash or wide appeal, but for those who understood muscle at its core. One devoted owner summed up the Cyclone spoiler perfectly, capturing its essence with a mix of affection and awe. It was a Boss 429 in a tuxedo 2 sizes too big. It didn't have to shout or wear flashy stripes to get noticed. The moment that 429 fired up, everyone knew power had arrived. It was muscle with manners, a beast wrapped in a tailored suit. In the grand tapestry of muscle cars, the 1971 Mercury Cyclone spoiler 429 Super Cobra Jet represents a rare breed, a car that combined brute strength with subtle sophistication, offering a raw, visceral driving experience wrapped in a shell that demanded respect rather than screamed for attention. Its legacy is one of quiet dominance, a testament to Mercury's willingness to build a muscle car that could stand toe-to-toe with the legends, yet remain a well-kept secret cherished by those fortunate enough to know. Number 6. The 1973 Pontiac Grand Am 455 Super Duty prototype is a rare and fascinating chapter in the twilight of the muscle car era, a fleeting glimpse of what could have been the ultimate expression of American performance before the industry shifted toward downsizing and efficiency. This project represented Pontiac's bold attempt to merge the legendary brute force of the 455 Super Duty V8 with a modern, more agile chassis, creating a machine that could have redefined muscle car standards at a time when the category was rapidly losing its footing. By 1973, the muscle car heyday was already on the decline. Increasingly strict emissions regulations, soaring insurance premiums, and the lingering effects of the 1973 oil crisis had forced automakers to rethink their strategies. But Pontiac, known for pushing performance boundaries with models like the GTO and the Trans Am, wasn't ready to concede defeat quietly. The Grand Am platform, introduced that year as a sporty intermediate model bridging the gap between the luxury Le Mans and the muscle-centric GTO, seemed an ideal candidate to carry forward the muscle car legacy with a fresh performance-focused approach. At the heart of this audacious plan was the 455 Super Duty engine, a legendary powerhouse originally designed for racing and known for its ferocious output and durability. Rated at an estimated 370 to 390 horsepower, though widely believed to have produced even more in real-world conditions, this big block V8 was capable of laying down colossal torque, the kind that transformed a car into a straight-line missile. While the 455 SD had powered Pontiac's heavier muscle cars before, the innovation here was shoehorning it into the relatively lighter and sportier Grand Am, a move that promised blistering acceleration combined with improved handling balance. During testing, these prototype Grand Ams equipped with the 455 SD engine stunned engineers and drivers alike. Acceleration was explosive, the kind that sent adrenaline surging and left rivals in the dust. But what really set these cars apart was their unexpected agility. Pontiac engineers upgraded the suspension with heavy-duty springs, better sway bars, and tuned dampers, allowing the Grand Am to corner with a confidence and sharpness rare among muscle cars of the period. This was not just brute force, it was performance with a hint of finesse, a muscle car that could attack corners as aggressively as it blazed down straights. Sadly, despite the remarkable potential demonstrated by these prototypes, the harsh realities of the 1970s automotive landscape intervened. Insurance companies were hiking rates on high-performance cars to untenable levels, making vehicles with big block engines a risky proposition for buyers. Emission standards were tightening aggressively, forcing automakers to reduce displacement or detune engines, eroding muscle car appeal. The oil crisis had made gas-guzzling muscle cars seem impractical, even irresponsible, in the eyes of the public and regulators alike. Pontiac executives, facing mounting external pressures and fearing the financial risks of bringing such a car to market, reluctantly shelved the Grand Am 455 Super Duty program. Only a handful of test mules ever existed, with most prototypes dismantled or repurposed, leaving only a handful of faded photos and scattered engineering documents to hint at what might have been. The car's existence has since become a near mythic story among muscle car historians and collectors, a tantalizing what-if that sparks endless debate and speculation. To those who witnessed or studied the project, the 1973 Grand Am 455 Super Duty was more than just a prototype. It was a symbol of defiance and hope. It represented the muscle car's last hurrah, a chance for a car that could bridge the gap between the raw, brutal power of the late 1960s and the emerging need for performance cars that were more balanced and modern. It was muscle with brains, brawn with balance, a car that could have extended the muscle car era into a new decade. A Pontiac insider's reflection captures the essence perfectly. If Pontiac had built it, it would have been the last true muscle car, the final roar before the curtain fell. It had the heart of a drag racer and the soul of a sports car. It was the perfect storm of power and control, a muscle car built for both the street and the strip. Today, the legacy of the 1973 Pontiac Grand Am 455 Super Duty prototype lives on, whispered conversations among enthusiasts and the imagination of those who cherish muscle car history. It stands as a reminder that even in moments of industry upheaval, bold engineering and raw ambition can create legends, even if they never reach the showroom floor. The Grand Am 455 SD remains one of the most fascinating ghost cars of the muscle car era, a lost masterpiece that could have rewritten the narrative of American performance forever. Number 7. The 1983 DeLorean DMC-12 twin-turbo Legend Industries prototype stands as a captivating testament to what might have been in the world of automotive performance and design, a story of ambition, innovation, and unfulfilled potential that continues to intrigue enthusiasts decades later. When the DeLorean Motor Company first introduced the DMC-12, it captured imaginations worldwide with its stainless steel body panels, futuristic gull-wing doors, and sleek, angular design that looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. However, behind this striking exterior lay a powertrain that was widely regarded as a letdown. The original 2.85-liter V6 engine churned out only around 130 horsepower, leaving the car painfully underpowered for its appearance and weight. The car was slow off the line, and many reviewers considered it a fashion statement more than a genuine sports car. Enter Legend Industries, a relatively small but highly ambitious tuning outfit based in New York. In 1983, they set out to rewrite the DeLorean's narrative by engineering a twin-turbocharged variant of the notoriously mild-mannered V6. This wasn't a simple bolt-on job. Legend's engineers reimagined the engine architecture by adding twin turbochargers in a carefully balanced setup designed to maximize power while minimizing lag. They upgraded the fuel injection system, reinforced engine internals like pistons and connecting rods, and reworked the cooling system to manage the substantial extra heat generated by forced induction. The resulting engine was a beast, conservatively rated at over 370 horsepower, nearly 3 times the power of the stock unit, and producing torque figures that dwarf the original output. This twin-turbo setup transformed the DeLorean from a slow, awkward cruiser into a true contender among sports cars of the era. Performance tests reportedly put its 0 to 60 mode MIA/PR times at under 5 seconds, a figure that would rival or outperform contemporary muscle cars and European sports cars alike. The turbocharged engine's surge came in strong and smooth, providing a thrilling acceleration that caught many by surprise. The car's unique stainless steel body, which once felt like a fragile shell over a modest powertrain, now housed a serious performance machine. Its wedge-shaped design and gull-wing doors gave it an unmistakable presence. Part futuristic rocket, part aggressive street fighter. Legend Industries didn't stop at just boosting the engine. To handle the significant increase in power, they enhanced the car's suspension with stiffer spring and upgraded shocks, and improved braking components to offer better stopping power and control at high speeds. These modifications turned the DMC-12 into a far more balanced and competent machine than the production version, capable of more confident cornering and track-worthy handling while maintaining the car's iconic looks. The interior remained largely true to the original, preserving the minimalistic, almost sci-fi aesthetic with its brushed stainless steel accents and unique dashboard layout, but with upgraded gauges and instrumentation to keep pace with the new performance capabilities. Sadly, the timing of Legend's engineering marvel was tragically poor. DeLorean Motor Company was already on the brink of collapse due to financial woes, production issues, and legal troubles surrounding John DeLorean himself. As the company went bankrupt and the factory shuttered, Legend Industries' twin-turbo project was left orphaned, never reaching production or wide public awareness. Only a handful of prototypes were ever built, with most lost to time, scrapped, or tucked away in private collections far from public view. The Legend twin-turbo DMC-12 became a whispered legend, known primarily through anecdotal reports, a few surviving photographs, and scattered engineering notes. For the lucky few who encountered the twin-turbo DeLorean, it was a revelation. It was a car that finally lived up to its own hype, a fusion of advanced forced induction technology and iconic design that made it not only a collector's dream, but also a genuine performance machine. The brutal turbocharged powertrain, combined with its aerodynamic, futuristic shape, created an almost otherworldly driving experience. Equal parts rocket ship and street-legal supercar. Its acceleration was explosive, its presence unmistakable, and its rarity unmatched. It looked like the future, and finally drove like it too. It was more than just a car. It was a statement that the DeLorean wasn't just a novelty, but a high-performance legend waiting to happen, said one enthusiast who had the chance to see the prototype in person. There was a certain mystique to it, the kind of car that made you catch your breath before the turbo kicked in, then held you tight as it launched forward like a missile. In retrospect, the Legend Industries twin-turbo DeLorean is a poignant reminder of how engineering ingenuity. Number 8. The 1972 Buick GS 455 Stage 1 convertible stands as one of the rarest and most formidable muscle cars to have ever rolled off an American assembly line. A true emblem of a fleeting era when raw power reigned supreme despite tightening restrictions and shifting automotive trends. In a time when muscle cars were rapidly being neutered by emissions regulations and insurance hikes, Buick found a way to inject staggering torque into an elegant package, blending brute force with a refined driving experience. The GS 455 Stage 1 was a car that didn't just compete, it demanded respect and attention with every thunderous launch. Officially rated at 270 net horsepower, due to the newly introduced SAE net measurement system, the actual output of the big block 455 V8 was vastly underestimated. In reality, the engine's gross horsepower figures hovered near 390, and torque reached an earth-shaking 510 oil-beft, numbers that placed it in the upper echelon of muscle car legends. This was an engine designed not merely to make noise, but to deliver relentless and immediate power, a beast that turned the act of driving into a visceral confrontation with brute mechanical force. The torque was so overwhelming that Buick engineers had to reinforce driveline components, and the joke around the garages was that the company downplayed the horsepower rating just to avoid lawsuits from owners who shattered their axles under the car's incredible torque. What makes the 1972 GS 455 Stage 1 convertible even more remarkable is its rarity. Only 81 units of this specific configuration were produced, making it one of the most coveted and sought-after muscle car convertibles of the decade. Unlike many muscle cars that prioritize aggressive styling or loud exhaust notes, The GS 455 Stage 1 convertible balanced muscle with a touch of class. It featured refined styling cues, a sleek, muscular body, tasteful badging, and a smooth yet aggressive stance that concealed the monstrous power lurking beneath. The convertible top added a unique dimension, allowing drivers to experience that raw torque and deep V8 growl with the wind whipping through their hair, heightening every moment of acceleration and every deceleration into a visceral sensory experience. Underneath the polished exterior, Buick's engineers equipped the Stage 1 with upgraded suspension components to handle the torque surge and provide a surprisingly composed ride. Heavy-duty springs, beefed-up shocks, and larger brakes were part of the package, designed to rein in the massive power without sacrificing drivability. Despite being a convertible, typically considered less rigid than hardtops, the GS 455 Stage 1 managed to maintain impressive composure on the road, with a suspension tuned to strike a rare balance between muscle car aggression and cruiser comfort. For collectors and enthusiasts, the 1972 Buick GS 455 Stage 1 convertible represents a lost era of unfiltered American muscle. It's a time capsule of pure, unapologetic torque, wrapped in a car that, by all appearances, could be mistaken for a genteel cruiser, but was anything but. Driving one demanded respect and skill, as the engine's brutal low-end shove could catch even experienced drivers off guard, making each acceleration an adrenaline-fueled event. The story behind this car is peppered with anecdotes that highlight its ferocity. Owners often speak with a mix of pride and humility, describing moments when the car's raw power felt almost untamable. "It was like trying to hold back a wild stallion," one longtime owner recalls. "You knew the car was capable of so much more than the number said. Every time you floored it, you were wrestling with a force of nature." Mechanics and restorers emphasize the need for reinforced driveline components and upgraded brakes just to keep the car safe on the street, underscoring how much muscle was packed into this convertible frame. As muscle cars went through their decline in the mid-70s, the GS 455 Stage 1 convertible became a symbol of what was slipping away, an era of muscle rawness, torque supremacy, and big block bravado. Its scarcity today means that few have had the chance to truly experience its blend of luxury and violence, and those lucky enough to own one regard it as a crown jewel of American muscle history. In the pantheon of muscle cars, the 1972 Buick GS 455 Stage 1 convertible is an undisputed king of torque and rarity. It's a vehicle that refuses to be forgotten, a roaring, rare convertible that, despite its understated elegance, carried the heart and soul of muscle car excess in a package that only the boldest drivers dared to command. To own and drive one, it is to hold a secret weapon from a time when muscle meant torque, and torque meant unstoppable power that few cars could match. Number 9. The 1990 Chevrolet Lumina Z34 is one of those fascinating automotive stories that often get overlooked in the broader narrative of American performance cars. While the Lumina name is typically synonymous with practical, often mundane family sedans and fleet vehicles, the Z34 variant stands as a remarkable exception, a car that quietly challenged conventions and delivered an unexpected punch for enthusiasts seeking performance and precision. It represents a bold experiment by Chevrolet at a time when the muscle car era had faded, and the industry was grappling with tighter emission standards, changing consumer tastes, and the rise of imported sports sedans. The Z34 was Chevy's answer to those challenges, a high-performance mid-size sedan with the heart and soul of a sports car cleverly disguised under a conservative exterior. Underneath the four-door sedan body, which looked perfectly at home on suburban streets and in parking lots, the Z34 housed a potent 3.4-liter dual overhead cam V6 engine that was nothing short of remarkable. This engine was developed with significant input from Chevrolet's Corvette engineers, blending American V6 traditions with modern performance technology. The DOHC setup allowed for higher revs and better breathing than most American six-cylinders of the day, enabling the Z34 to rev well beyond 7,000 RPM. In terms of output, the factory numbers, 210 horsepower and 215 lb-ft of torque, may seem modest compared to contemporary muscle cars, but these figures undersold the engine's true spirit and responsiveness. Real-world testing and tuning hinted at power closer to 230 horsepower, and the engine's character was marked by a sharp throttle response and an exhaust note that was distinctly exotic, often described as Ferrari-like, for its higher-pitched growl and smooth delivery. This sound alone gave the Z34 an aura that stood apart from the typical V6-powered cars of the era. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of the Z34 was its chassis and suspension tuning, which came courtesy of Lotus Engineering, a company renowned worldwide for crafting balanced, driver-focused vehicles. Chevrolet's collaboration with Lotus was strategic. They wanted a sedan that could handle twisty roads with precision and confidence, something American sedans were rarely delivered in that period. The result was a suspension setup that was firm but compliant, offering excellent feedback and sharp cornering ability without compromising too much ride comfort. The 5-speed manual transmission perfectly complemented the engine's high-revving nature, allowing drivers to fully exploit the car's power band and deliver a driving experience that was both involving and rewarding. This was no mere fast family car. The Z34 felt alive, agile, and far more connected to the road than many V8 sedans twice its size. Production numbers for the Z34 were limited, as Chevrolet never intended it to be a mass-market offering. It was targeted at a niche group of enthusiasts who wanted performance and practicality without the flamboyance of muscle cars or European sports sedans. The Z34 was only produced for a few model years, making surviving examples increasingly rare and highly sought after by collectors today. Despite its rarity, it never developed a broad cult following during its original run, overshadowed by flashier pony cars and muscle cars of the era. But those who owned or drove one remember it fondly as a sleeper with a surprising personality and the kind of engineering depth that few mid-size American sedans could match. From a design perspective, the Lumina Z34 didn't seek to stand out. Its clean, simple lines, four-door practicality, and conservative styling meant it blended seamlessly into the traffic flow, allowing it to fly under the radar. This sleeper aspect only added to its mystique. It was a car that quietly embarrassed more ostentatious and powerful cars at stoplights and on winding back roads alike. Enthusiasts recall stories of the Z34 pulling away from muscle cars and luxury sedans with ease, leaving onlookers baffled at how a seemingly ordinary Chevy could display such quickness and agility. In hindsight, the Lumina Z34 was ahead of its time in many ways. It foreshadowed the modern sports sedan philosophy of blending performance, refinement, and everyday usability, a formula perfected later by brands like BMW and Audi. Chevrolet's gamble on Lotus's suspension expertise and the advanced V6 engine was a bold move during an era when many manufacturers were retreating from performance due to economic pressures and tightening regulations. The Z34 proved that American cars could still innovate quietly and perform spectacularly, even without a loud V8 or flashy marketing campaigns. Today, the 1990s Chevrolet Lumina Z34 is a hidden gem for collectors and enthusiasts who appreciate its unique place in automotive history. It's a car that challenges assumptions, blending the mundane with the extraordinary. Number 10. The 1971 Chrysler 300 Hurst Edition is more than just a rare muscle car. It's a symbol of a fleeting era when raw power met refined luxury in a way that few cars dared to attempt. Created during a period when the muscle car market was beginning to contract under mounting emissions regulations, skyrocketing insurance costs, and the oil crisis, this collaboration between Chrysler and the legendary Hurst Performance Company was an audacious attempt to keep the spirit of American performance alive, while wrapping it in a package that was unmistakably upscale and exclusive. With only 501 units produced, the 300 Hurst Edition stands as one of the most elusive big block muscle cars from the early 70s. Its heart and soul was the monstrous 440 cubic inch V8, a power plant revered for its effortless torque and explosive acceleration. Although Chrysler officially rated it at 375 horsepower, many enthusiasts believe the engine's true potential was significantly higher. The 440 was a torque beast, producing an estimated 480 km/h, which translated into brutal, neck-snapping launches and relentless mid-range power. This was muscle car performance in its rawest form, designed to overwhelm with sheer force rather than finesse. The choice of the Torque Flight automatic transmission was a masterstroke, a transmission known for its smooth yet robust shifts capable of handling the Ford 40's prodigious output without breaking a sweat. This pairing made the 300 Hurst not just a drag strip terror, but a car that could comfortably handle long highway cruises with an air of effortless dominance. The driving experience was a mix of old-school muscle car thunder and personal luxury sedan grace, a blend that few other cars of the era could match. Aesthetically, the 300 Hurst edition was impossible to ignore. Its distinctive gold and white two-tone paint scheme radiated an aura of exclusivity and flamboyance, fitting for a car meant to stand out in a sea of muscle cars and luxury coupes. The special Hurst badging scattered around the grille, rear deck, and interior reminded onlookers and drivers alike that this wasn't just any Chrysler 300. It was a rare breed, a collector's prize, and a statement of unapologetic power wrapped in elegance. The exterior was complemented by chrome accents, sporty rally wheels, and a subtle yet aggressive stance that hinted at the fury lurking beneath the hood. Inside, the cabin was appointed with plush materials, rich textures, and touches of opulence that distinguished it from the more Spartan muscle cars of the time. Deeply padded seats, wood-grain paneling, and thoughtfully designed controls created an environment that welcomed both long-distance comfort and high-speed thrills. It was a place where power met poise, and where drivers could enjoy the brute force of a 440 V8 without sacrificing the luxury and refinement expected in a top-tier Chrysler. Driving the 300 Hurst edition was a study in contrast. From a casual glance, it could easily be mistaken for a stately, personal luxury coupe cruising the boulevard. But once the pedal was floored, the transformation was dramatic. The big block roared to life, sending shockwaves through the chassis, and the torque rolled in with an urgency that made the car feel alive and dangerously quick. Yet, despite its aggressive powertrain, the car maintained a surprising level of composure on the road. The suspension, while not sporty by modern standards, was tuned to soak up bumps and provide a stable platform for the car's massive power, allowing drivers to enjoy both spirited runs and comfortable cruises. The 300 Hurst edition was designed for a very specific buyer, the executive who craved performance but demanded exclusivity and style. Someone who wanted to quietly outclass the competition without resorting to the overt flamboyance of other muscle cars or sports coupes. This was a car for the discerning few, those who wanted to make a statement in boardrooms by day and dominate drag strips by night. Its rarity, combined with its unique blend of luxury and muscle, has made it a prized collector's item today, commanding respect and admiration from enthusiasts who understand its place in automotive history. One longtime owner summed it up best. It was a luxury missile for executives who hated Corvettes. This simple phrase captures the essence of the 300 Hurst edition perfectly. A car that combined the raw, unfiltered power of America's muscle car golden age with the elegance and sophistication expected from a high-end luxury coupe. It was an unapologetic celebration of speed, style, and exclusivity, and it remains a testament to a bold chapter in Chrysler's performance legacy that few have forgotten and even fewer have experienced firsthand. Number 11, the 1986 Chevrolet Caprice 9C1 Police Interceptor is a fascinating chapter in the story of American muscle cars adapted for law enforcement use, blending brute strength with durability and tactical precision. Before the Impala SS became a household name among performance sedans, the 9C1 quietly established itself as one of the most formidable factory-built police cars ever produced by General Motors, designed from the ground up to meet the grueling demands of high-speed pursuit, long hours of patrol, and the constant stresses of urban and highway policing. Though visually it looked like any other full-size Chevrolet Caprice cruising down the street, the 9C1 concealed a vastly different character under its hood and chassis. Power came from a specially tuned 350 cubic inch small block V8 engine, rated at 190 to 210 horsepower depending on the option packages and tuning. But those numbers only hint at the car's real-world prowess. Torque delivery was strong and immediate, giving officers the ability to launch the car off the line with surprising urgency. The engine's responsiveness was paired with heavy-duty transmissions and rear differentials built to handle the constant punishment of aggressive driving. But power alone did not make the 9C1 special. General Motors went to extraordinary lengths to ensure that this Caprice was a true predator on the streets. Its suspension was reinforced with stiffer springs, upgraded shocks, and beefed-up sway bars to maintain composure during fast cornering and sudden evasive maneuvers. The frame and chassis received reinforcements to reduce flex and increase durability, essential for a vehicle expected to endure the repeated hard braking, quick acceleration, and side-to-side forces of pursuit driving. The braking system itself was significantly upgraded, featuring larger discs and calipers to provide fade-resistant stopping power under intense conditions. Aesthetically, the 9C1 was subtle. Its unassuming black and white or monochrome paint schemes, simple hubcaps, and minimal badging allowed it to blend into everyday traffic. Yet beneath this modest exterior lurked a machine with a growl that few could ignore. The dual exhaust system gave it a distinctive rumble, a low and throaty warning to anyone foolish enough to test its mettle on the road. Unlike muscle cars that shouted for attention with flashy graphics and bright colors, the Caprice 9C1 was stealthy and efficient, a true predator that worked best unseen until it was too late. The car's interior was designed for utility and officer comfort during long shifts. Heavy-duty vinyl or cloth seats resisted wear, and the dashboard was outfitted with factory wiring harnesses and mounts to accommodate police radios, sirens, and additional lighting controls. It was a workplace on wheels, rugged, no-nonsense, and optimized for the demands of law enforcement personnel who relied on it to perform flawlessly day after day. In the hands of a skilled officer, the Caprice 9C1 could match or exceed the performance of many V8 muscle cars on the street, a feat that surprised many civilians and even some rival departments when they encountered these vehicles during pursuits. The Caprice's balanced power-to-weight ratio and solid handling made it nimble for its size, while the robust drivetrain and suspension allowed for aggressive driving without the fragility of a typical muscle car. Unlike street racers, these cars had to last for thousands of miles of hard use, often in unpredictable traffic conditions, and they consistently delivered. Though these cars were never available to the public, their legacy is felt deeply among enthusiasts and collectors who appreciate their blend of muscle car aggression and law enforcement utility. The 9C1's presence in countless police chases, movies, and television shows cemented its image as the ultimate cop car of the 1980s, even as it quietly disappeared from police fleets due to newer models and changing regulations. Collectors today prize original, well-preserved examples of the 1986 Caprice 9C1, not just for their rarity, but for what they represent. A period when American muscle could be found behind the wheel of a police cruiser, ready to enforce the law with authority, speed, and an unmistakable roar. Restored models often serve as rolling tributes to a bygone era when muscle and practicality collided in a uniquely American way. One retired officer reflecting on his years behind the wheel of a 9C1 put it best. It wasn't just a car, it was a promise that when you heard those sirens and that growl, justice was fast, relentless, and coming for you too. Nobody outran a Caprice 9C1 and got away easy. That raw, no-nonsense reputation still resonates today, reminding us that sometimes muscle wasn't just for show. It was a tool for the badge, for keeping the streets as safe with power and precision. Number 12. The 1970 Ford XL Sport Roof equipped with the 429 Thunderjet engine is a muscle car enigma, a vehicle that effortlessly combines the contradictory qualities of imposing power and refined luxury, yet remains buried beneath the towering shadows cast by Ford's more celebrated Torino and Mustang siblings. While the XL may not have commanded the same fanfare or cult status as those iconic models, it quietly carved its own niche in muscle car history, one defined by sheer brute strength wrapped in a surprisingly elegant package. At a glance, the XL Sport Roof didn't scream muscle car in the typical sense. Its fastback roofline gave it a sleek silhouette that differentiated it from the boxier sedans and coupes of the day, but its long, heavy body and restrained styling often made it blend into the background. Chrome accents were tasteful rather than flashy, and the overall stance projected more dignity than aggression. But lurking beneath that poised exterior was a true powerhouse, the massive 429 Thunderjet V8, an engine that represented the pinnacle of Ford's big block muscle efforts. Rated at 360 horsepower on paper but delivering closer to 375 in real-world performance and packing an immense 480 pound-feet of torque, the 429 Thunderjet was a force of nature. The engine's rumbling growl was more felt than heard at idle, and when unleashed, it pushed the XL forward with the relentless surge of a freight train. This wasn't a car to casually breeze through traffic. It was a machine that demanded respect every time the accelerator was pressed. The massive torque made the XL a terror off the line, and with the right rear axle ratios, it could muscle its way past lighter, more nimble muscle cars in a straight-line drag race, often catching opponents completely off guard. Driving the XL Sport Roof with the 429 engine was an experience marked by contradictions. The car's steel-heavy chassis and plush suspension gave it a smooth, almost luxurious ride, masking the raw ferocity beneath. But as soon as the throttle was opened, the XL shed its genteel demeanor, lunging forward with a violence that belied its composed appearance. Cornering, however, was a different story. The XL was a boat in tight turns, prone to body roll and slow to respond, a reminder that their car was built for long straights and powerful pulls, not nimble handling. Braking required anticipation and care, as the sheer mass meant stopping distances were long and fade could set in under heavy use. The market reception of the XL Sport Roof was a curious case of misalignment. Positioned awkwardly between Ford's more youthful and performance-focused Mustang and the more mainstream, versatile Torino, the XL was caught in a marketing no man's land. Enthusiasts gravitated toward the flashier, lighter options, while everyday buyers rarely saw the appeal of a heavy muscle coupe that looked more stately than sporty. Production numbers reflect this reality. The XL with the 429 Thunderjet engine was a low-volume proposition, with only a small percentage of XLs leaving the factory with this fearsome big block under the hood. Today, surviving examples are extremely rare, making them highly prized by collectors who appreciate the model's unique blend of power and presence. Owners who lived with the XL often describe a car that was part gentleman, part gladiator. Its cabin, while spacious and comfortable, was a quiet stage for the roaring drama under the hood. The creature beneath the hood was a satin-covered wrecking ball, smooth and polished at rest, yet terrifyingly brutal when provoked. It was a car that could dominate the quarter-mile with ease, yet carry passengers in cushioned luxury on a Sunday cruise. This dual personality is perhaps what makes the XL Sport Roof with the 429 Thunderjet so fascinating. It challenged the notion that muscle cars had to be brash and gaudy to be effective. Today, the 1970 Ford XL Sport Roof 429 Thunderjet stands as a hidden legend, a rare, misunderstood icon of muscle car history that rewards the patient enthusiast willing to look beyond the usual suspects. Its scarcity, combined with its astonishing power and surprisingly graceful styling, make it a true collector's gem. It tells the story of a muscle car era that was as much about raw force as it was about unexpected sophistication. A reminder that sometimes the biggest surprises come dressed in the quietest packages. In the end, owning or even simply knowing about this car is to hold a piece of American muscle car heritage that remains as imposing and intriguing as ever.